Steve, we're going to call this meeting back to order. Tom's, are we good? We live? David, you live? All right. So onward. We're going to move it to item enforcement, agenda item G, and we're going to introduce Rodney Kobos, enforcement chair.
Thank you, Chair Mark. The 2025-2026 strategic plan includes the following general report. Subdivision 2.3 administrative penalties as necessary to ensure they are adequate for violation. Existing law provides a civil penalty of not less than $200 and not to exceed $15,000 for certain violations related to unlicensed persons. Existing law authorizes a civil penalty for other specified violations not to exceed $8,000 or $30,000 as provided. As you recall, the board voted to sponsor legislation to raise enforcement of fine minimums at its December meeting. Senator Harper agreed to author SB 779 on CSLB's behalf and introduced the bill on February 21st, 2025. The bill should be referred to and Economic Development Committee soon to be ready. This bill commencing July 1st, 2026 will increase the minimum civil penalties for violations related to unlicensed persons to at least $1,500 and would impose minimum civil penalties of at least $500 or $3,000 for other specified violations as provided. The bill would require the contractor state license board just the amounts of these minimum civil penalties for inflation every 5 years as provided. 2, enforcement program update. The next item on the enforcement agenda is the enforcement program statistical update, which begins on page 101. Including thorough statistical update. However, this time I will request the enforcement chief, Steve Grove, provide a couple of highlights. Steve.
Thank you, Chair Kobos. I have 2 highlights I'd like to share this morning, beginning at the bottom of page 104 of your packet. The first highlight is titled Net Zero Stay of Replication Vacated. In April 2019, a homeowner entered into a written contract with Daniel Scohen, Net Zero Disaster Resistant Structure LLC, to rebuild their home that was destroyed in the 2017 Tubbs fire in Santa Rosa, and build an all-concrete fire-resistant home for $1,073,000. Net Zero started working on the project, and as of October 2020, homeowners have paid a total of $1,089,000 towards the rebuild of their home. In December 2020, Stonefield sent a contract addendum to the homeowners, which included language to increase the total contract cost by $119,400 and up to $153,900, which is not including unpaid bills totaling $10,000 and overhead to Net Zero at $1,500 per week. The homeowners refused to pay the additional amounts, and Net Zero stopped all work on the project. In April 2021, the homeowner filed a complaint to CSLB, which was assigned to a peace officer in special investigation. The homeowner then entered into a written contract with a new licensed contractor to correct and complete the project. The new contractor found much of the work performed by Net Zero did not meet accepted trade standards and would have to be corrected. The homeowner ended up paying approximately $300,000 to repair and complete the work. On January 31st, 2023, an application was filed seeking revocation of the license for abandonment, substandard workmanship, failure to complete the project for the contract price, and aiding and abetting an unlicensed person. In March 2024, a proposed decision was issued in Net Zero Resistant Structure LLC, which included administrative probation for a period of 3 years, a disciplinary bond, and restitution of $268,000. On December 3rd, 2024, it was ordered that the stay of revocation be vacated due to the contractor failing to make restitution payments and provide proof of compliance with the provisions of the decision. The order went into effect January 3rd, 2025. This is an example of staff's efforts to make consumers financially whole, along with disciplining the license. The next highlight I would like to share is on page 106. It is titled Felony Case Filed Against the Road License. In April 2021, David Allen King, CEO and president of Superb Builders Inc., entered into a $10,000 residential remodeling contract while his license was suspended. Subsequent change orders increased the contract total to $1,547,000. Prior to commencing work, King requested and received an excessive deposit of $20,000. In July 2021, Superb Builders Inc. started working on the demolition. On July 30th, 2021, CSLB revoked Superb Builders Inc.'s license for violations unrelated to this project. From July 30th, 2021 to July 30th, 2023, Superb Builders Inc. continued to work in the capacity of the contract. During this time, the only work completed was demolition and foundation work. King requested and received several additional payments throughout the project, totaling $1,138,000. In June 2023, the homeowner received notices from material suppliers and subcontractors advising that they were not paid for materials provided and services rendered. The homeowner stated that he spoke with King about unpaid subcontractors and material suppliers, and King advised the homeowner would have to pay the suppliers and subcontractors directly project off. The homeowner refused to make the payments, and King abandoned the project. The homeowner then hired a licensed contractor to inspect the work to build Superb Builders completed on the project. They determined the approximate value of the work completed to be $260,750. In July 2023, homeowner hired a new contractor to take over the project for $1,705,000 and complete the work Superb Builders was originally hired to do. In November 2024, CSLB investigator reported criminal investigation to the San Mateo County District Attorney's Office against David Allen King, CEO and president. December 2024, the DA's office filed felony and misdemeanor charges against King for larceny, engaging in a business without a license, and requesting or receiving payments that exceeded the value of the form of materials delivered. On December 11, 2024, an $875,000 warrant was issued for King's arrest. This is a great example of staff working closely with local prosecutors to pursue criminal charges.
Continuing statistical update, you will note that at the top of page 102, some staffing information. Currently, we will never vacant positions in the enforcement division, which is approximately 5% of the available position. Interviews have already been conducted, and candidates selected for five of these vacant positions. At the middle of page 108, you will find complaint statistics. For the period of July 2024 to January 30, 2025, a total of 11,823 complaints have been issued. The current staffing levels, the optimum maximum enforcement division caseload is 4,895 pending complaints. As of January 31st, 2025, the pending caseload was 5,028. Assessments assigned to CSLB intake detention center have done a remarkable job of mediating consumer complaints. From July 1st, 2024 to January 3rd, 2025, staff's efforts have resulted in $18.3 billion in restitution to financially injured parties. Another important goal is to appropriately disposition all of the 100 complaints within the 270 days of receipt. As of February 11, 2025, 332 complaints exceed 270 days of age. Enforcement supervisors continue to work closely with their staff and provide guidance during regular case strategy discussions and monthly case reviews in an effort to reduce the backlog of aged cases. At the middle of page 109, you'll find information regarding CSLB sponsored arbitration and disciplinary action statistics. Let us know if you have any questions about those. And finally, I will provide a brief update on proactive enforcement, which is conducted by 27 special investigators assigned to the statewide investigation fraud excluding board SWIFT. This information is at the bottom of page 107 of your packet. CSLB staff have worked tirelessly to help communities affected by the recent wildfires in Southern California. Many team members have staffed disaster recovery centers, DRC, Los Angeles, Pasadena, Altadena, and Altadena, providing vital consumer protection resources for those impacted, while the Pasadena DRC has closed. Los Angeles and Altadena locations will continue operations through March 2025. SWIFT investigators have also been on the ground helping disaster victims avoid contractor fraud. January 24, 2025, SWIFT investigators began posting warning signs and distributing CSLB resources with support from the Department of Insurance throughout the Eaton and Palisades fires. At the bottom of page 110 of your packet, you'll find statistics for SWIFT proactive enforcement. From July 1st, 2024 to January 31st, 2025, SWIFT conducted 25 undercover sting operations across the state, participated in 242 sweep days, and responded to 430 leads or tips received from the industry and the public. Investigators closed 2,098 cases as a result of the operations, but 704 cases resulted in administrative or criminal legal action. Additionally, over 732 advisory notices were issued for minor violations. And lastly, at the middle of page 112, you'll see the Enforcement Supervision Experience Verification Unit has conducted 829 application investigations during the period of January 1st, 2023, January 31st, 2025. Of the total, 470 were verified or approved, 140 were withdrawn, 213 were denied, and 6 denials were appealed. That concludes the enforcement program statistical update. This is an informational item only. No action is required of the board. Do any board members have any comments?
I'll have a couple comments. Enforcement staff, we appreciate all the hard work. Sometimes it's hard when you have 5 minutes of stats, the real benefit for the consumers of California here. I want to highlight also like the signs that were put up at the, if people can see, the signs that the fires that our SWIFT team is putting up is really helping the consumers of California and everyone who's affected by the fires to please get a licensed contractor. So these specific signs, that's the picture in picture 108, and there's 2 sides to it, right? The Spanish version and the English version. So again, for anyone affected by the fires, this is another announcement. Please make sure you're hiring licensed contractors, especially during the rebuild over the next 4 years. Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public or here in the room? Thank you.
Sure. Great report. Rodney, appreciate it. We're going to move on to G, licensing. Moving to the licensing and testing program update. Taking over for mini chair Jim Ruane, who could not be here in his absence, Henry Dunn.
Thank you, Chair Martin. Good morning, I'm Henry Nutt III, speaking today on behalf of Jim Moraine, the 2024-2025 licensing committee chair, who has an excused absence. I'm providing the licensing and testing division update today with assistance from licensing chief, Carol Gagnon. The licensing and testing strategic candidate agenda item H1 begins on page 117. Staff have begun researching all 6 of the strategic plan items, item 1.1, to explore and address language barriers to licensing and testing will be addressed later in the testing section of today's report. We'll discuss the ongoing success of the Spanish translated examples. In addition, staff are reviewing letters and forms that can be translated into Spanish. Staff have also begun collecting demographic data as part of the monthly applicant survey to determine which languages should be addressed in the next year. Item point 2, trade exam waiver for out-of-state licensees is in good stand. I will now ask licensee chief Carol Gagnon to comment on the CSLB's proposed board acceptance of out-of-state candidates who have passed the NASCLA commercial general builders exam and meet other specified criteria, which starts on page 119.
Registrar Quorum, did you want to make comments at this time, or did you want to wait till I read this whole sentence? What would you prefer? I know you're awesome.
I thought you would lead off.
Okay, that's fine. So this agenda item relates to CSLB's general building contractor and remodeling contractor classifications only. It does not involve C specialty classifications in any way. CSLB helped develop the National Commercial General Builders License Examination, the NASCLA exam. It is based heavily on and is similar to CSLB's general building classification. Yours truly was even involved in the development of that national exam. Because it is similar, CSLB has waived CSLB's general building contractor trade exam for applicants who pass the NASCLA commercial general building exam for 5 states that issue NASCLA commercial examination. The board approved this in 2018. And as a reminder, applicants must always comply with all the other requirements for the waiver, which are on page 120 of your packet. Well, several more states now use the NASCLA commercial B exam or commercial builders exam. To prevent staff from requesting approval from the board for each additional state each time one starts to accept the NASCLA exam, staff today is asking the board to authorize us to waive the California general building examination for out-of-state general building applicants on a case-by-case basis for those who have passed the NASCLA commercial general builders exam. In other words, allow staff to simply accept applicants who pass the NASCLA commercial general builders examination, regardless of what state they're from, provided all the other requirements on page 120 are met. Registrar Vogt, I turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you. The only thing, I would add is it's kind of a big picture item. If you read 7065.4 in the Business and Professions Code, it says the registrar can waive a trade exam on a case-by-case basis. And so instead of having to come back in front of you every time we have another state that wants some type of formal agreement, of which most states are not willing to enter into reciprocity written agreements today, we're just asking if you are in support allowing staff on a case-by-case basis to waive the trade exam for general building only. If they've been licensed in good standing in another state and they've taken the NASCLA exam, which we helped to develop and is very similar to ours. And I just want to emphasize that there is no request to waive any specialty trade exams. This is only the general building exam.
Does support staff recommendation.
The question is, are exams considered equivalent to the NASCA exam? Meaning, could we go the other way?
Yeah, back in 2018, we had the department's Office of Professional Examination Services at that meeting, and they have reviewed the NASCA exam to confirm that it was substantially the same. So that's very important. And our staff has also looked at it.
Is there a what mechanism that will staff be able to verify the completion, successful passing of the NASCA exam? Is it an online registry or some other mechanism?
Well, that's a wonderful question, and Mike Chimnitsky is an expert in that. So
it's a great question. NASCA has developed, we've been talking this morning about online systems. that make everything easier. NASPLA developed one, with certificates of completion of people that have passed the NASPLA. Start having research and find those certificates to prove that they've been passed.
Usually verifiable.
Yeah.
Great. David, I don't think my question was answered. If you hold a B license in California, you want to get a B license, it requires an NASPLA exam. You say you pass the NASPLA exam.
Yeah, well, yes, to answer that question, there's a lot, I don't have the exact number, but many states today are accepting the NASPLA exam for their general building class. What happens on a regular basis, because I have an association with NASPLA, is that executive officers from other states send me an email and say, for our people, they said, can you just verify that this contractor is licensed in good standing in your state? And I send them an email back and they waive the trade exam. Florida, South Carolina, you name it. There's no agreement with them, but they are looking to license our folks. And if you look at the numbers for last year, we know that other states waived the trade exam for over 2,000 of our licensees. On the flip side, I think we only waived the exam, was it 44 times? 44 times. So there's an opportunity there, I think, to help our contractors, but also to obtain, if we need additional contractors in California.
Being part of at Subdivision, we were kind of the gatekeepers and holding California that had what we consider.
People don't respect us in our trade exam.
So we wanted to make sure that our standards, there were no standards anywhere else. Getting a contract to come into the states. People to come. Our standards, we had no standards. No conversation. They created some kind of specification.
Yeah, it's just important to remember that we don't consider waiving the trade exam unless we confirm that the applicant is licensed in good standing for at least 5 years in the state. And so it'd be the same thing where I would reach out, or one of our staff would reach out to the state, say, is this person licensed in good standing in your state for 5 years?
This I think we just gotta make sure it's clear, depending on their B license in other states, that on the subcontracting side, I know you said this does not affect specialty contractors, but make sure it's clear to the potential contractor working in California that we have these specialty classes in place and all that. So that would be, just make sure that messaging is there, because I don't know if they have different subcontracting laws in their state for their fee.
We can absolutely do that. And if you were to approve this agenda item today, my thought is we would put something on our website under the applicant tab to explain this, and we can absolutely include that you need to understand in California that the specialty trades, they have specialty licenses, and also there are restrictions on the general building classification and what they can self-perform.
And is there a specific form that could, when there is reciprocity, that they are confirming that these are our laws within the state of California for our license requirements of a B license, and when it comes to specialty contractors, specialty license?
We could develop something so that they have a form to request the exam waiver. In the current practice, they have to put it in writing. But just to really be clear about this, what we're trying to get away from is the formal reciprocity agreement with the other states. The other states don't. We're going to talk about North Carolina. They still do it, but most states do not. So we could absolutely develop something. If you want to request an exam waiver, here's the form you need to fill out. You need to acknowledge you understand it's California laws to this extent.
That's what I'm getting at. That way they know, yes, you might be accepting their past experience and past law, but these are what it takes to do business in California.
Dave, comment, just,
I think it's great, advantageous for our contractors to, working with other states with us you know, being 12 states, we're seeing our contractors expanding, you know, going up to Montana, Idaho. And I think that contacting you about this, right? Past licenses that, you know, our contractors need to get over the clientele is, you know, taking them out there and they want to expedite, you know, they have a license here. But I know with specialty contractors, that's a big request I hear all the time too. And would that be something that we would be able to look into, or is that completely out of the, you know, the discussion of doing the same thing for the specialty contractors?
I think it's something to be looked into, but it might be something that the chair would want to appoint an advisory committee to look at, because there has been pushback from some of the specialty trades about waiving the trade exam for the specialty classification. But for this proposal, I didn't want to include that, but if the chair would like to do that, that would be fine.
In my opinion, it's always been difficult for certain specialty classifications, you know, let's say the NEPs, because there's different regulations, mechanical codes, and there is no uniformity between states in that aspect. So, if there was a motion.
Was can read the recommendation from the staff for this adjustment. So the actual staff recommendation is authorize staff to waive the California General Building Examination for out-of-state general building applicants on a case-by-case basis will pass the NASPA Commercial General Builders Examination. Any other comments from the board? Comments from the public? Do I have a motion? Okay, I would accept that. Yeah.
I'll second.
Second. Any other board comment or public comment? Rob?
Mark?
Aye.
Before roll's taken, can I just confirm that the initial part of the staff recommendation was as long as the requirements of section 765.4, which I don't think changes the motion, but is the beginning of the staff recommendation.
Okay.
So the motion is to support staff recommendation.
To comply with the statute.
Good statute.
And just for clarification, we're talking about page 120, very bottom. That is what staff recommendation is.
Correct.
There was a motion. There was a second.
Michael Mark?
Aye.
Joe Barton has an excused absence. How do you propose? John Garza? Aye. Amanda Gaia? I'm good.
Aye.
Jacob Lopez?
Aye.
Diana Lowe? Henry Nutt?
Aye.
Stephen Lee has an excused absence. Joseph Cristiano?
Aye.
Jimmy Wayne has an excused absence. Thomas Ruiz? Harry Tyker? Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
So now there's one more request under this item. CSLB is the first of its kind residential remodeling contractor's license examination, and other states have already begun to model this. Some states have a general building contractor's license examination that's not as rigorous as CSLB's, but is comparable to CSLB's residential remodeling classification. So staff seeks the authority to waive the California B2 residential remodeling examination for out-of-state residential remodeling applicants if staff determines the state's general building or remodeling examination is comparable. Again, as a reminder, all those other requirements on page 120 would have to be met. Henry will put forward the staff recommendation.
Carol, how many B2s do we have? It just hasn't taken off.
We actually have 1,007 B2s as of my last check. So that's a really good thing. Part of it is because we're advertising it in our Get Licensed to Build research.
But just to clarify what you said, so if another state has their own trade exam, it's nothing to do with the national exam at all. So if
Right.
another state has their own residential remodeling class, we review it and find that it's very similar to ours. Would the board be in support on a case-by-case basis of waiving it if they've been licensed in good standing in another state for 5 years? For the B2?
Yes.
I think it just needs to be clear, because in the B2, it stipulates that mechanical trades
they cannot perform any work within the mechanical trades or a B2 license, residential. So that part needs to be very clear because the residential home builders in maybe another state, that they might be self-performing that. So it just needs to be really clear. And that they meet, if they meet components of a residential license, that for us in our B2, that the items that require a permit, I think was one of the other stipulations that it's been known and that they actually signed something, like affidavit that they understand that this is law.
They understand the restrictions that they don't require, that there's behind the wall work does not apply. So we could make that part of the request form, so we understand clearly.
That's it.
I think should be okay with this one. 765.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to read what the staff recommendation is. So as long as the requirements of 765.4 are met, grant staff discretion on a case-by-case basis to waive the California B2 residential remodeling examination for out-of-state residential remodeling applicant. Remodeling examination is comparable.
Second, as long as those requirements that you were saying, but
We can do those as policies.
Yeah,
This
from the
we'll build all the rest of that out, forms and everything.
Create a form that will fill out the technology.
Yeah.
Any comments from the public?
It's
Robert, roll call.
okay. Michael Mark,
I,
Joe Ward has an excused absence, Marty Provost. Aye. Joe Galarza. Aye. Amanda Gato. Alan Guy.
Aye.
Jacob Lopez.
Aye.
Aaron Love.
Aye.
Doing that.
Aye.
Steve Finelli has an excused absence, Joseph Preciado.
Aye.
Jim Mooney has an excused absence, Thomas Ruiz.
Aye.
Harry Tyker.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, the next topic for licensing is the CMEA Advisory Committee update. Please turn to page 121 of your packet for this update. For a little background, the Construction Management Education Sponsorship allows contractors to contribute to an account established under CSLB for the purposes of construction management education at California State Colleges that offer a bachelor's degree in this field. Due to the generosity of licensees, CSLB distributed grants totaling $225,000 last year. The committee that will receive this fund is composed of 11 members, one from each of the organizations listed on page 122. Each of these persons serves a 3-year term. This year, 2025, is the time to reappoint members to the committee for the next 3 years. CSLB staff reached out to each organization, identified the law, and asked for a volunteer to serve as a representative for the July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2028 term. The proposed representatives are listed in the table on page 123. There is no representative listed for Engineering Contractors Association because they merged with United Contractors in June 2023. These two organizations will now be represented by the same person. Staff recommends that the board appoint the representatives proposed in the package to serve on the Construction Management Education Act Committee for July 2025 to June 2028 term. Any comments from the board? No? None? Any comments from the public? So I'd like to ask the board to consider the following motion. Appoint the representatives proposed to serve on the Construction Management Education Act Committee for the July 2025 to June 2028 term. Second. Oh, you were second, sorry. It's the first. Any other comments from the board or the public?
Michael Morgan.
I,
Joe Martin is excused absent, Marty Provost. Joe Kevin Hartman. Aye. Amanda Guy. Tom Guy.
Aye.
Jacob Lopez.
Aye.
Diana Lowe.
Aye.
Henry Nutt.
Aye.
Stephen Elliott has an excuse of absence. Joseph Feliciano.
Aye.
Jim Romaine has an excuse of absence. Thomas Ruiz. Aye. Aaron Tucker.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now for the licensing and testing program update. Agenda item H4, please turn to page 125. Regarding applications, the table on page 126 indicates the number of applications received for new licenses, additional classifications, replacing qualifiers, and home improvement salespersons. As you can see, CSLB received over 11,000 applications in the last quarter. The number was slightly decreased from the previous quarter, but this typically occurs as California moves into the winter season. Next table on that page indicates a year-by-year comparison of the total number of applications received in each of the last 5 calendar years. CSLB received over 49,000 applications in 2024, more than each of the previous 4 years. A quick update on our 2 new licensing classifications shows that since August 2021, when the B02 residential modeling trade began, it now has 1,007 licenses. Since January 1st, 2024, when the C49 tree and palm classification began, it now has 124 licenses. Staff mentioned the B02 trade and their GET license to build monthly workshops. This outreach may be contributing to the higher numbers in this trade. On page 127, you can see that all of our processing times are staying close to our under 3 weeks. Staff has kept licensing processing times at or below 3 weeks for over a year now, and are doing an excellent job at keeping up with the incoming applications and renewals. A few units have been managed to keep their response time under 2 weeks for the entire year. Licensing management and staff are proud of the fact that they have had no backlogs in over a year. The table on page 128 lists the disposition of applications by fiscal year. The number of weighted applications per year has gone down from 2023, 2022, 2023, meaning more applications are continuing through the licensure process instead of waiting out. There are fewer pending applications at the end of 2023, 2024, indicating that applicants were able to complete the licensure process more quickly. As seen on page 129, CSLB reviewed over 26,000 renewal applications in the last quarter. This is slightly down from the previous quarter, but again, this is typical for the winter season. The next table indicates the annual renewal totals for the last 5 years. Renewals went up overall in 2024 compared to the previous 2 years. Page 132 indicates the number of work of CSLB's criminal background unit. In 2024, CSLB received 40,129 records from the Department of Justice. This includes reports from fingerprinting for not only applicants, but home improvement salesperson, registrants, and all officers listed on licensee applications. This is why the numbers are larger than the application numbers. Most of these were clear and had nothing to report. Of those records that provided criminal offender record information report, most of them were for situations like a DUI from a long ago that will not prevent them from licensure if they have a record since then. In 2024, 7 applicants were denied licenses due to their criminal record, and 206 were issued probationary licenses. For an update on reciprocity requests, turn to page 136 in your packet. CSLB received 233 requests from licensees for license history to be sent to another state so they can add a license there. There were a total of 2,283 of these requests in 2024, more than in previous years. I will now turn it over to Carol Bagman, licensing chief, for the testing program update.
Thank you, Henry. So good morning. For the testing update, please turn to page 138 in your board packet. CSLB had a record-breaking year with over 55,000 examinations being administered by PSI in calendar year 2024. 74 of those were law and business exams taken at test centers outside of California, and 59 more exams were taken in the Wilsonville, Oregon Test Center. CSLB plans to look into expanding testing for other trades into approved test centers outside of California in late 2025. As indicated on page 140, the exam development unit released 2 updated exams between November and the end of January, the C28 Lock and Security and C50 Reinforcing Steel exams. 7 additional updated exams are now at PSI for programming, and new releases are scheduled in the next few months. In addition, EDU staff has set between 18 and 22 versions, test versions, each month to PSI for program. A version is a test form composed of the 100 or 115 scored items and pretest items that the candidates take in the test centers. An updated examination, on the other hand, is a revised item bank that will be used to create those versions for that trade for the next 5 years. Each exam item bank is updated every 5 years on average to match the new codes and trade association standards, update and add new items, and create a new task form. The Spanish exam update begins on page 141. This is part of CSLB's ongoing efforts to reduce language barriers for applicants and licensees, and is part of licensing strategic plan item 1.1, as mentioned with me back at the beginning of my update. In the last year, between February 2024 and January 2025, over 10,000 Spanish exams were taken by CSLB candidates. The law and business and GB general building are the most often requested. Staff also conducted a survey of Spanish exam candidates that indicated there were concerns about comprehension of some of the terms. As a result, staff began holding exam workshops with Spanish fluent subject matter experts in each trade to review the new Spanish item banks. Staff discovered that the initial translations had been to European Spanish instead of the Latin American Spanish that is most commonly used by CSLB candidates. So all 10 item banks have now been updated to Latin American Spanish, and new versions are being sent to PSI for release. In addition, the SMEs mentioned that oftentimes Spanish-speaking employees work for an English-speaking contractor, and they learn the tools and the materials and equipment names in English. So as a result, staff suggested programming the English or the Spanish exams, so that candidates can toggle and see an English version of a question when they're reading their Spanish exam, so they can see the name of the tools and the equipment and the materials in both languages. This has been added to versions for 5 of our trades so far, and is being programmed for the other 5 Spanish item banks. The initial data from the first 5 banks indicates that as a result of these 2 changes, Latin American Spanish and the English toggle options, the pass rates for Spanish exam candidates are increasing, as seen in the table on page 142. That's all I have for licensing and testing. I'll let Henry finish his talk.
Thank you, Carol. Any comments on this item from the board? This concludes the licensing and testing update. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nutt. I appreciate you covering for Mr. Dwayne. Great work, great job. Thank you, licensing staff, for the great report. Moving on to public affairs, we have Public Affairs Committee Chair, Ms. Diana Love.
Thank you, Chair Mark. Good morning, everyone. I am Diana Love, Public Affairs Committee Chair. Chief of Public Affairs, Catherine White, will provide the update on the strategic plan before I present the Public Affairs Program update. Catherine?
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to take regarding public affairs progress on one of the strategic plans. So discuss goal for outreach and build partnerships with building departments, state education statements about hiring licensed contractors and students about construction related. Public affairs and designated information officer as well as or in partnership to encourage construction as a possible career field. So far, she has contacted building stages around the state along with women construction groups, see how CSLB can increase its presence and show how CSLB can be a valuable resource if they look into the construction field. The information officer has also developed a presentation outline to share at speaker events. The presentation will share opportunities for underserved groups, including apprenticeship programs that could be the first step towards someone eventually getting their license. While there's still much work to be done, the foundation of meeting this goal has started, and we're excited to see what CSLB can do to encourage people of all backgrounds to enter construction. I will now turn the table back to the committee chair, Love, the board, and all.
Thank you, Catherine. Are there any board comments? Seeing none, are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, I will continue with item number 12, Public Affairs Program Update, and you can find that on page 148. The Public Affairs Office, or as it's called, PAO, is responsible for media, industry, licensee, and consumer communications, as well as outreach. They provide proactive public relations, respond to media inquiries, and develop and distribute publications and newsletters. PAO creates content for CSLB's social media channels and website, including webcasts and videos. After devastating wildfires swept through Southern California in January, many homeowners now face the daunting task of rebuilding their homes and their lives. CSLB's Public Affairs Office has taken action to help protect wildfire survivors from fraudulent contractors and guide them through reputable licensed professionals. This outreach has played a crucial role in ensuring fire survivors can rebuild safely and with confidence. CSLB helps wildfire survivors get the resources they need at disaster recovery centers in Los Angeles, Pasadena, and Altadena. CSLB also staffed a local assistance center in Camarillo in Ventura County after the mountain fire broke out in November of last year. The Disaster Help Center on CSLB's website has updated further following the Palisades and Eden fires and includes a link to CSLB's press release informing homeowners of the precautions they need to take before beginning the rebuilding process and urging them to only hire licensed contractors. This messaging has amplified on all CSLB social media channels. CSLB also maintains a toll-free disaster hotline Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And PAO has produced a new flyer to remind contractors about the safety precautions they need to take while working in disaster areas. In the area of video and digital services, PAO is working on an updated rebuilding after a disaster video following the fires. This is part of PAO's focus on creating informative videos for consumers, licensees, and applicants. Videos include tips for hiring a licensed contractor for various home improvement projects and a new video celebrating Women in Construction Week. The videos are shared on YouTube and other social media platforms and archived on the CSLB's website. PAO has also prioritized translating and producing Spanish language consumer and industry videos. You can see a list of 5 of live and recorded videos starting on page 149. On page 150, you'll see how PAO continues to increase CSLB's following on social media by improving engagement with applicants, licensees, and the news media and other stakeholders. CSLB remains an active presence on Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn. The most popular post on Facebook was posted in December and informed consumers about when a contractor is required to have workers' compensation insurance. Posts about CSLB's sting operations also continue to be popular on social media. On page 152, PAO shows an updated subscriber list of nearly 193,000, which includes the licensee information listserv. The subscriber list also receives CSLB's industry bulletins and press releases. Between November 1 and January 31st, CSLB issued press releases related to the implementation of the new laws and sting operations. PAO also responded to 22 media inquiries between November and the end of January. On page 153, you'll see a list of publications and reports CSLB has completed between November and January. Also on page 153, it shows the outreach events CSLB attended between November and January. CSLB outreach events are beginning to pick up in the new year and with new legislators. Also, on page 154, you'll see a list of publications and reports CSLB completed between November and January. They include the 225 edition of the California Contractors License Law and Reference Book and the updated consumer guide to filing construction complaints, which was among the publications that were updated with the new 1,000 handyman exemption. It was made clear in these publications that a licensed contractor is required for any project requiring a permit for workers, no matter the cost. The Public Affairs Office also writes and publishes content for internal communications. On page 154, you'll see a list of internet articles PAO has produced between November and January, highlighting upcoming meetings, holiday celebrations, and the all-staff town hall that was held on January 16th. On page 155, you'll see that CSLB's Public Information Center maintained wait times under the board goal of 6 minutes for all of 2024. Wait times did increase in January, but much of this is due to a significant increase in calls after the wildfires. CSLB received more than 18,000 calls that month, much higher than the 11,000 to 13,000 usually received. Since this is an informational item, there's no action required of the board. Do any board members have any comments? Seeing none, any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll turn it back to our chair, Mr. Martin.
Thank you. Great job. Great work, team, and big picture. So that's going to conclude our business today. There is a couple of housekeeping items I want to make sure I thank. I want to make sure I'm thanking board member Joelle Martin, who provided the suggestion of us having this meeting held at the Electrical Training Institute, which is IBW NECA JTC. A lot of apprentices go through this facility, and from what I hear, there's going to be a fairly large graduation today of apprentices. Secondly, I want to make sure I'm thanking Jacob Lopez for the great tour of their facility yesterday of the Western States Carpenters Tour, Orange County. Sorry, that Orange County local, but I can't remember if it was actually Orange County. But yes, that was a great facility as well. A lot of great open space, a lot of comes to drywall, all the trades we've been at the carpenters. So appreciate that tour. And with that, I would request a motion and a second to adjourn. Within by Rodney Cobos, second by everybody. I concluded today's business. Thank you.